welcome to our Golden 20s podcast. My name is Tegan, and I'm joined with my co-host Sadie.
Hello.
And we are here to talk all about health and wellness habits that changed our lives. And if you've been listening for a while, you know that we are wellness girlies. We are always trying the new tricks and seeing what works and what sticks. And I feel like now, as we're getting into our later 20s, we actually have some that are working that we want to share with the masses. So that's what we're going to do today. But to start, we're going to do a connection card.
Yay.
And we are back to the Happy Tears deck. We are still in the yellow category, I think, for the rest of March. So these are just icebreakers. And this card says, what is your greatest strength? Do you make enough time to put it into practice?
I would say one of my greatest strengths, it's kind of sad because my mind immediately went to things at work.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of something that applies to work, but also in my personal life. And I think I'm really good at time management. And I'll talk about that a little bit, I think, in some of my habits that we're going to chat through in this episode. But I'm talked on the podcast a lot about being like a planner. But I think part of that is just having good time management where I'm like, I don't know, I feel like I do a lot of different things in a week where it's like, carving in time for self-care, carving out time to see my friends and be social, carving out time to work out, making all my meals, making sure I'm still reading. Like there's a lot going on, but I find a way to make it work. And then speaking of work, on the work side, I feel like I don't really like the word multitasking, but I'm always working on multiple projects at once. And again, I'll be like, there's always a lot to do where I'll get overwhelmed, but I trust myself because I'm like, no, I know I can get through this because I come up with a plan, I manage my time well, and everything always works out. So maybe that's a really loserish answer, but that's what comes to mind for me.
Love it. No, I think that makes sense for you. I don't know, for me, for some reason, the word like resilience is coming to mind, but it's only related to just like fighting through like stress or like dealing with hard situations and continuing on, or like being really committed to things even if they're not going well, like that sort of vibe. So it feels like a very big word, and I don't necessarily mean it in like the grandest sense of it, but for some reason that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, I think that makes sense for you too. Because like you said, it's like, you're very much like, okay, the show's got to go on, you know? So it's like
you just got to do it.
Yeah. And it's not to say that you always have like bad luck or something where you're like forging ahead regardless, you know? But it's like when things do come up, I feel like you have a good mindset to be like, well, that's life, moving on, where someone like me, like I really dwell on things. So it's hard to move on. Like I'm like, no, I need to like make peace with it, get my closure on it. And that can take like, I don't know, weeks on weeks of time. And I don't know.
Yeah. Even like growing up, I remember there being moments of like, I can't do this. And my mom being like, well, you just have to. And it's like, that's now how my brain works. So it's like very rarely where I think of something and being like, I can't do that. It'll be like, well, let's figure out how to do that. So maybe resilience isn't the right word for it, but that's what came to mind. I don't know.
Okay. We'll go with it. We accept that answer.
Great. Well, let's dive into our health and wellness habits and tips and tricks. I know that that's probably why everyone's here. No one cares about my resilience. So let's dive right in. Sadie, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, definitely. And maybe actually I'll start with something that goes hand in hand with my time management strength. So the first health and wellness habit that has changed my life is having consistent routines. And again, I'm a big planner. You guys know, if you listen to a lot of these like health and wellness episodes that we have, I always bring up like my agenda, because that's where I plan all of my like tasks and weekly to-do lists and how I manage my time. However, I think on the day to day, I have a consistent morning routine, I have a consistent night routine, and those are the best parts of my day because they're phone free times. Often my phone is, locked from my apps, and I can really just focus on myself and doing things that make me feel good. It's also just giving me time to wake up in the morning. I'm really not a morning person. So when we first started working from home, I was someone that like rolled out of bed at 8:45, washed my face, grabbed my coffee, and was at my desk 15 minutes later. But my brain wouldn't start working until like 10:30, 11 in the morning. So now, waking up, having a morning routine all before work, I'm giving myself some time to ease into the day and actually wake up before I log into work. And then similar with my night routine, that's really, winding down from the day so that I can get a good sleep at night. And essentially my brain isn't in like running a million miles a minute when I turn the lights out to go to sleep. My night routine is actually very extensive. It's like 2 to 2.5 hours of just like wind down time. But I know I need that. So I think this is the biggest thing for me. And I'm just throwing buzzwords at you guys, but I've also really like habit stacked within my routine. So now that these times of days are so consistent, I find if there's something new I'm wanting to try. So if it's taking vitamins or reading or, like reading 2 chapters a day or whatever the goal is or the habit is that I want to form, I work it into these night and morning routines to habit stack off like the base routine that I'm already consistent with.
Love it. Yeah, I definitely agree that once you kind of get routines into place, it can be life-changing. I had sort of some similar things written down. One thing for me was waking up and sleeping at the same time every day. I'm still trying to figure out my like ideal morning and night routines. I find that I struggle with like I put on too much, where it's like instead of like having a morning routine that's 5 steps, it's got to be 25 steps and it's got to be crazy. And then it's like hard to be consistent with it. So I'm still trying to figure out what makes the most sense for me and what my like ideal wake up time is. But like I said, one big thing for me is waking up and going to bed at the same time. And I found that in my early 20s, it was like a free for all, where you just stayed up as late as you wanted, and then you would just sleep in as much. And I find that, well, obviously when you're working, you're waking up at the same time Monday through Friday. And so I like to keep things somewhat consistent in the weekends. If you've been listening to this podcast, know that my sleep drama is never ending. So I do allow myself some extra time to sleep in, but I like to keep it within an hour or two of when I wake up for the workday. So that's something I've been working on. And the same with going to bed at the same time. Even on weekends, unless there's some extra thing happening, like a concert or traveling, I do like to get in bed at the same time every weekend, which is lame now that I'm saying it out loud, but that's life.
No. Yeah. And it's like, if you know it works for you, why resist it?
Sort of hand in hand with that, I also have the screen time feature on my phone set to turn on at the same time every day, which really helps because if you can't be using your phone, it's really hard to stay up super late. So I fluctuate between using it in the morning. All through the month of January, I had no social media in the morning. I haven't been that strict with it in March and February just because I was working on other goals, but definitely not before bed. Every day at 10:30, my phone like shuts itself off. I can use Spotify, I can use audiobooks, and I can use like I can read ebooks, but no social media, no emails, no calendar, which for some reason is one of the really hard ones. Like I didn't realize how many times when I'm laying in bed, I would think, wait, what am I doing tomorrow? And I need to remind myself, like, girl, who cares? Like, what, you
Mm-hmm.
get to do something from your bed at 11 p.m.? So I have my phone set every single day to do that. And it has been quite life changing. I haven't found it
Yeah.
made a difference in my sleep necessarily, but it's just made my wind down routine more relaxing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use those features as well, and I
Yeah.
totally agree with you. And even there are days where I still, where it's like, remind me in 15 minutes or whatever
Yeah.
it is, where you go on the app and it's not like you
Yeah.
can't access it, like you still can, but it's just the awareness around accessing it that
Mm-hmm.
is all I need sometimes, So it's like, okay, I'm just going to scroll for 15 more minutes. When it comes up to be like, hey, your 15 minutes is done, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
and having awareness versus I think the challenge for
Mindless.
social media is, yeah, the mindless scrolling. All of a sudden, it's like an hour and a
Yeah.
half's gone by. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it really helps manage that. So I also love the screen time features. I was going to say, just on the sleep piece, this is not something that changed my life, but I've been trying the Sleepy Girl mocktail and I was going to report
Mm.
back to tag in
Oh,
with how
yeah.
it's going. I actually think it helped a lot.
Okay.
I will say that I don't have powdered magnesium, and I don't think every time I've done it, like I did it last night, but I don't think I took magnesium like pills since I have those. So sometimes it's just the cherry juice, and
Yeah.
I also don't use, I basically make it my own. I'm like, I don't use this, I don't use that. You guys are like, so you just drink cherry juice? And it's, yeah, pretty much. But cherry juice, I still mix in like lime juice and then just water it down with
Mm.
my normal water, not sparkling
Yeah.
water, because I'm really trying to cut back on how many carbonated drinks I drink. I find they really like make me bloated and stuff. And I'm
Mm.
like, even if it's a low sugar carbonated drink, I feel like I shouldn't be drinking that before bed. So all this to say, it's just cherry juice, watered down lime juice, stir it up. Sometimes I pop a magnesium pill with it. Other times it's just the cherry juice. And I actually have been sleeping really, really well. I will
Mm.
say, and this is maybe giving a sneak peek into some of the other habits that I'm going to talk to through this episode, but it's also, I've been drinking it on days where I've like gone for a run or gone
Right.
outside and like had a lot of fresh air. So it's like, is it just the cherry juice that's making me sleep so well at night? Probably not, but I do find it has been helping. So
Hmm.
wanted to report back with that.
Yeah, I'll have to give it a whirl. I was doing the magnesium, and it's the brand they sell at Sephora,
The
but
moon
it
juice.
was, yeah, giving me an upset stomach. It was
Yeah.
almost just making me like burpy. But then as you're
Yeah.
trying to sleep and you're like, I feel like I need to burp, like that is not the relaxing vibe. And I had heard that about it. And so I was trying, like my therapist suggested having some type of like oil with it. So she was like, I always eat like a little bit of chocolate with it. So I was having some Nutella and I think it helped, but I just wasn't very consistent with it because it was giving me such an upset stomach. Or I'm like, maybe I'm drinking
Mm-hmm.
it too late. Like maybe I need to drink it with dinner. And then it's like not on an empty stomach and gives me some time, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
I need to revisit it, but I was
Yeah.
not blown away by it.
Yeah. I'm going to try another version of it. So in my night routine, I have a cup of tea. Like usually my night routine starts around
Mm-hmm.
9 and I'll boil the kettle, make a tea and take it into my room while I like do my skincare and start reading and, do the rest of my little routine. But I've been replacing my tea with the Sleepy Girl mocktail, but I saw there's a hybrid of tea and mocktail with like chamomile
Oh,
tea and cherry
mm.
juice. So I'm going to try that
Oh,
probably like
yeah.
this coming week because I think that might be like really, really good. So
Yeah.
we'll see. You might have to cool the tea. I can't remember the specifics off the top of my head, but
Hmm.
I don't know. I thought it's just also like that intentional self-care
Yeah.
moment, I live for that.
Love it.
Anyways, next on the list, maybe I'll stick with something else in my routines, taking vitamins and probiotics specifically. So maybe actually going to tackle two things at once. And this is maybe a TMI situation, but pretty much my entire life, I've had like a really hard time going to the bathroom and like keeping like bodily functions like normal and, you know, things like that. But I found ever since I started taking probiotics, that is so helpful and keeps like my gut health in check, but also making sure I'm drinking enough water and staying hydrated throughout the day. So that also is one of the healthy habits, not even just drinking lots of water, but tracking how much water I'm drinking. So I measured out how big is my water bottle. Now, how big is my Stanley cup, and compared to my Swell water bottle, like, you know, I know exactly how much water I'm getting in a day. I use a habit tracker to tick off every time I drink a water bottle or finish a Stanley cup. So I know how much water I'm drinking and then how much I need. So I have a goal in mind for every day and track my progress towards that goal. And again, I feel like this helps so much. Usually I'm finishing my water goal when I'm taking my vitamins at night, and that's just like two birds, one stone. But yeah, I feel like water is obviously something we talk about all the time, anytime we have a health and wellness episode. And I know it's annoying to hear, but it honestly is such a game changer coming from somebody who never used to drink water. I'm like, I see all the benefits. Even just like in the workday, I used to be someone that would be like, oh, I'm so like tired, or I need a pick me up. I'm going to go make another coffee. But I felt like that just gave me headaches. It made me feel really gross. Even I would just get like stress sweats that just like were not, like, just made me feel so disgusting. And now I reach for water, like cold filtered Brita water from the fridge, and that is just like hits the spot, turns on my brain for work, makes me feel good, like from the inside out. So all of this on the water intake, and then a little bit of probiotics as well.
Yeah, love it. No, definitely agree with the water. I've said this before, but I can literally see on my face if I haven't had enough water. Like, it's like all my wrinkles are deeper and my skin's just so dull. So it's like, even from an aesthetics perspective, drinking water can make a big difference. I think one thing I had written down that's kind of the same vein, where it's so obvious, but you have to say it. And it's been like working out, movement, that sort of thing. It's, again, like drinking water, where you don't necessarily notice it until you stop doing it. And you're like, oh, that's what that is. And all the times in my life I can think where I was like the happiest, I was super active. And I don't even think it needs to be like a workout regimen. Even things just like walking, I think make a huge, huge difference. Getting your steps in, trying to stand more. Like, I'm someone who works at a desk, and so it is something that you have to carve out time for and make an effort, but I definitely think it's worth it. And from like a confidence perspective, like the times where my arms are jacked, I'm like, yes, I'm amazing. Where, you know, if you haven't been incorporating that movement, it's so easy to be like, oh, I feel so blah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think working out is the most beneficial for my mental health, like more so than even like my physical health, things like that. Like you said, when I stop working out, that's when I'm anxious and stressed, and I'm like, what is going on? Why do I feel this way? But as soon as I take that energy out to either the yoga studio, out for a walk, out for a run, I feel so, so much better. And for the confidence thing, I feel like I don't even look any different most of the time after even consistent workout. Like, I feel like I still look the same, but I just view my body completely differently, where I'm like, you're so strong, you're so capable, like you crushed that yoga class, you just ran the furthest and fastest you've ever ran. And that boosts my confidence even more than seeing physical changes. So it definitely is probably one of the other like biggest things outside of like the consistent routines that has completely changed my life. And I think if you're intimidated and you don't know where to start with a workout journey, essentially, because it is something that people get very intense about, there's so many options and there's a whole industry behind it now. But I think if you can, and I don't want to be pushing this because I know it's expensive, but working with a personal trainer was really what got me so into this, and just aware of how movement can or should be part of your lifestyle, rather than like a task you have to check off the list so many times a week, you know? So I think a lot of gyms have personal trainers at them, but I think they can also help you figure out what types of exercises you like to do so that you don't dread working out. They can help you, you know, figure out should you like your water intake around working out. Like that's when I got really into tracking my water, tracking my food, eating healthy was all through my workout journey. So it's kind of like a jumping off point for at least for me, it was like the jumping off point for transforming my life just to be a lot more health and wellness focused.
Yeah, 100%. I think that one thing for me that the working out has like built inside me, I guess, has been like confidence around social anxiety, where when I first started working out as an adult, I would be like anxious about going to the gym. I would be anxious like going into stores, let alone going to workout classes. Where now, within the last couple of years, I've seen this like transformation where I can go to any gym and be like, yeah, I'm here to work out, any class. And I'm like not afraid of looking stupid or of being silly. And even like we just got gym memberships for just like a regular gym near us. And I was like, first time there, felt fine walking in. I felt fine using machines I didn't know how to use and looking at the pictures and trying to figure it out. And I'm like, this is all just grown from practice of me going to studios, going to classes, going to gyms, and like looking like a fool and learning that that's fine. Like that no one cares. It's not that deep. So there's that element of it too, where it did take, I guess, practice to get there. The first couple of times I would work out, I really started on this journey because I was going on vacation. And so that's what I would use to motivate me. Like, you've got to go. I know that you're scared, but you want to look good on vacation. So let's do it. And then it just morphed into me now feeling comfortable where I can go to all kinds of crazy things. And then I notice it like, if I go to a spa where I'm like, normally I'd be nervous. I'm like, where do I stand? Where I'm like, okay, I'm here at the spa. Let's go. So that was a big sort of transformation as well mentally that I found came from it.
I'm still working on that. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I can go to a workout class. To go to a gym by myself, I can't do it yet. Like, I'm someone that needs to know exactly what to expect. And then also the machines, I'm like, no, I really, really want to go because obviously there's so much more equipment at the gym than I can have at home. Like I have my dumbbells, but to even like push myself for a weight that I don't have at home, like there's so many benefits of going to a gym, pushing myself, you know, but I'm just like, no, I can't bring myself to do it. So maybe one day we'll get there, but yeah.
I
Going
do think
with somebody to figure it out, I'm like, that's fine. Like if we went together and both of us didn't know what we're doing, I'm like, that's fine. We have each other to figure it out. But to go by myself, I'm like, no. I don't know. Still working on it.
The big moments for me that kind of got me there was one, I did like an aerial yoga class and I was so bad at it. But I was like, I'm just going because I've always wanted to try it. I know I'm going to be bad. And like, it was like the instructor had to help me the whole time. And like I said, from that experience, I was like, oh, it's not that deep. Literally no one in the class was even looking or cared. Like the instructor, she was there to help me. So that really like was an eye opener for me. And then I think my hockey, because it's something I do every week. So then I'm like, I know I'm consistently being active. So it's almost like a switch flipped in my mind being like, no, I deserve to be at the gym because I do work out at least once a week. And the element of like being the only girl, but being a part of the team. So it's still like I'm foraging for myself, but having a whole team to back you up, that really like changed my thinking around things as well. And especially around like men working out, where that was a big intimidation factor, where it's like, well, I don't want to go to the gym where there's all these dudes and they're like lifting weights and I don't want to be in the way. Where now I'm like, no, it's fine. Like, they're not looking at me. They've got their own drama. Like, I don't know. It got me into the psyche, I guess, of active men. And I was like, oh, okay. So they're just like little puppy dogs running around, like no thoughts, just vibes. And it kind of helped me as well, where it almost made me like be like, no, I deserve to be here too. So
Yeah, totally.
yeah.
I love that. Okay, I need to take that mindset. No thoughts, just vibes for gym bros,
Yeah.
because I think that's what
100%.
intimidates me. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like, you don't want to look stupid, especially in front of all these like jack dudes who are
and
like
I'm
grunting and
yes, and I'm
Yeah.
like me because everything is extremely deep to me. And I'm the most intense person ever, but I'm like I'm also I feel like representing women everywhere. So if I go in looking like an idiot, don't know how to use this machine, I feel like, and I know this isn't the case, men love to be needed and love to help, especially love to help women. So I know that's the case, but I'm like, I look like that woman who doesn't know how to use the machines at the gym. And like, that's such a stereotype, you know? And I'm like, I don't want to be that person, but like you're saying, it really isn't that deep. And now I'm just holding myself back, you know, and that's not fair either. I owe it to myself too, but we will get there one day.
Yeah. Definitely. I think one thing that we are both probably going to mention is therapy. This has been a sort of like later 20s journey for me, and I've been really enjoying it. I don't think I've had like a big breakthrough necessarily. It's more just like smaller steps towards feeling better. And it's kind of like what I was talking about with working out, where it's like you're really anxious at the start, but the more you do it, the more you practice, the better you feel about going to new gyms. And I find it's the same with therapy, where things, say at my work, that would really, really send me off the deep end, make me super anxious. The more I talk through it with a trained professional, the less, I guess, triggering those moments are. And so it's just been so transformative from the perspective of knowing how to handle things, as well as having just like an outlet, because I don't want to burden my friends with talking about my like deep psychological trauma. I don't want to have to burden my husband with it. Here's someone who you're paying to burden and who's actually trained to help you and identify like why these things are so triggering, how to deal with them, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. I think that's the biggest thing for me is there's so many things I bottle up because I don't want to burden other people with it. And then all of a sudden I'm like blowing up at people and they're like, and they're like, why didn't you just tell me this? Or like, okay, you have a lot going on. Like, you know, I think accepting the fact that I need help sometimes was really hard, but that's exactly what a therapist does. And I don't think being in therapy or needing help or needing to chat things through is a weakness now. So that's definitely a big mindset shift for me, but there definitely have been a few big epiphanies I've had through therapy. And it wasn't necessarily even my therapist being like, I think this, and me being like, oh my God, you're so right. It's just over time, as we talk about things, I notice reoccurring themes and come to these conclusions myself where I'm like, oh my gosh, like maybe I'm feeling this way and it's related to, you know, this other situation when I felt that way too. And, you know, she coaches me through it without telling me exactly how I'm feeling or why I am feeling that way, you know? So I think that's so helpful. And that's something that I wouldn't get if I just continue to journal and process things on my own. Like I do think there's obviously a lot of benefit in journaling, as you guys have heard me talk about many, many times before. And that's definitely what started my like self-awareness and like befriending myself, understanding myself journey. But therapy is just helping me take that next step because she's pointing things out to me or slowing me down to realize things I wouldn't realize without that like third party professional opinion. So yeah, even I think a big mindset around therapy is you have to have a specific problem or a specific situation that you want help with. where that is definitely not the case. I think if you go in with a goal, that's great. But for me, sometimes I sit down with my therapist and I'm like, I don't really have anything top of mind to chat through. Sometimes I do, but other times, no. So she'll be like, okay, why don't you just like tell me about your week or your past few weeks since we last talked? I go through that and all of a sudden I'm like, wow, I didn't realize how much weight I was carrying around or how much I needed to talk about this. And that helps so much. So it's even just like day-to-day stuff. It doesn't need to necessarily be like healing childhood trauma and, you know, things like that. So I couldn't agree with you more, Tag. I think therapy is definitely life-changing. And it's also something like I do it sometimes every 2 weeks. Sometimes I do it every 4 weeks, you know, like you can figure out the cadence that works for you. You can change it based on when you need more support, but it is definitely something that has changed my life in recent years, especially through the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic when like mental health crises are at an all-time high.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I feel like we're so lucky now that like you can do things virtually, and that was a big barrier for me to do therapy. It was like, I don't want to have to go to this person's office once a week, and now like it's just so easy. It's easy to find therapists, so we are definitely lucky in that regard.
Yeah. I think maybe on the topic of finding therapists, I always recommend people check out Psychology Today. There's a Canadian site, but also one for the US, and you just can search for therapists in your area and you can see a little profile on all of the therapists there. So it tells you like what they specialize in. And from there, you can really, you know, book a consultation, see if they're a good fit for you. So if you are thinking about therapy but don't know where to start, definitely recommend that.
Yeah, that was where I found my therapist.
Awesome. I think maybe sort of related, but more so on the journaling side. Something else that I had on the habits that changed my life was daily gratitude journaling and monthly goal setting and monthly reflections. So sometimes I journal in between these things, but every single month and then the daily gratitude journal every single morning, I open my journal to write these things down. So monthly goal setting, you guys have heard me talk about so many times before, but really at a high level, I think why this is so life-changing is it just gives me direction with what I want to do, what I want to accomplish, and then I can shape, you know, the tasks that I do throughout the month or different experiences I want to try, like all of those around my goals. And it also just holds me accountable to actually showing up and getting those things done or trying something new. So definitely think monthly goal setting is been one of the biggest game changers for me. And then spending time at the end of the month reflecting on how did those goals go? Why didn't I achieve them? Why did I? And just overall, you know, how am I feeling? I think having that reflection time with myself really is helpful on like developing self-awareness and getting in tune with how I'm feeling. But it also is really nice to look back on, even like years down the line, like looking back on my 2017 journal when I just graduated from college and was, you know, starting my post-grad life, like to look back on these really big times of my life and see myself process it is just something that is really special. And I wouldn't have if I didn't, you know, spend time every month writing down a monthly reflection. So definitely wanted to put that on the list. And the daily gratitude journal, I don't know if that's really changed my life, but it's something that I've incorporated into my morning routine where my first sips of coffee, I'm sitting down in bed writing in my gratitude journal, just 3 things that I'm grateful for. And I do find it's a nice way to reflect. You know, usually I think back on the previous day, be like, was there anything really great that happened that day that I'm grateful for? And I'll write it down. But other times it's just, you know, I just changed my sheets. I'm so grateful for like my cozy bed, you know, things like that. But sometimes I think more negatively without realizing it. So I do think this is a good way to consciously be pushing myself to think positively.
Yeah, I also wrote down gratitude because this is something we do at my work. We have a daily meeting where we talk about our priorities. And at the end of the meeting, every person says something they're grateful for. And it sounds so silly and like a waste of time until it's like I'm on a walk and I see a really cool tree and I'm like, oh, I should say I'm grateful for that. And it's like changed the way that I think about things, where I'm noticing things to be grateful for under the guise of, oh, I'll mention that in the meeting tomorrow.
Right.
But it's actually just made me more present and grateful, like in general. So it sounds so silly, but it does just like change the way you think. And I found it's like the most impactful around little things, like a tree on my walk. Obviously, it's like, I'm grateful I went to this concert last night. Like, yeah, everyone would be. But it's little things like, I'm grateful for coffee. I'm grateful for my bed because it's so comfy. Things like that.
Yeah, 100%.
One thing that I am working on is carving out space for like rotting or rest and dedicating time towards it, because I am the type of person who will just like go, go, go and do a million things and then be exhausted, have a day where I'm rotting and then feel guilty about it. And so this is something that I'm working on. I feel like it could be better, but it has made a difference to me to be like, okay, this afternoon, we're doing nothing. This day, we're doing nothing. I used to be the type of person who was like, needed to have something in my calendar every day. Like to have a Saturday with nothing in my calendar, be like, what a waste of a weekend. Where now I'm like, no, it's fine. It's good. So I wanted to mention that. I guess it's not really like, well, it could be a habit if you're like carving the time out, but I did want to mention like allowing the time for rest has been a big like change for me, and I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, I love that so much. I think that's an important reminder, since I think a lot of people think the way you do, where it's like, okay, rest is a waste of time. But in my experience, every single time that I take that time for myself, I always feel better the next day. I have two more things. I'll maybe say meal planning as the next one, which we know I love meal planning. I love grocery shopping. This is like a nerdy thing about me that I think comes up again in every single health and wellness episode that we have. But I think why meal planning has been a game changer, or like completely changed my life, is it gives me like, again, it's consistent routine, but it also ensures that I'm like set up and showing up for my future self to eat healthy, have a plan throughout the week when I'm really busy. You know, I don't need to be thinking about what am I going to eat for dinner tonight. Like I sit down once a week, plan it out, go to the grocery store, get all the ingredients, and I'm good to go throughout the week. I just need to show up, make the meals, and eat them. So I think this is really why I'm able to eat healthy and like cook at home as much as I do. And I think the other big thing that I've been very focused on the past few weeks, past few years, past few months, definitely longer than weeks, is really reducing my food waste. So I think when I plan out my meals, I plan things that have similar ingredients so that I'm not, you know, buying, I don't know, a pack of, this is a bad example since you can buy one pepper, but like buying a pack of peppers and only using one of them. You know, it's like, okay, I'm buying 3 peppers and that's because I have 3 different recipes that need peppers or something like that. So definitely think this is a game changer for me. And yeah, something that I'm very consistent with and proud to be consistent with.
Yeah, this is something I also need to work on. I rely on my husband Tyrell for 99% of our food planning, which is not fair, but it's something, well, you've all heard me talk about my cooking struggles, so it's something I usually will set as like a goal a couple times a year for a month to be like, we're going to be more consistent with like healthy meal planning and cooking and that sort of thing. But definitely not a habit that's changed my life yet because I haven't made it a habit yet. But it's definitely
I think,
on my list.
Yeah. A good motivator too is how much money you can save, because I know you always say like how much you spend on like Uber Eats and you know, when you actually add up all of that, it's eye-opening. But I think it's kind of on time management, but also like money management too, for like the benefits of cooking at home, where I'm like,
Yeah.
this is just so good. And once you get into the routine, you find recipes that you like and are easy to make.
Yeah.
And you just make them over and over again, like have a handful of go-to recipes. It's like, wow, no, this is life-changing. And yeah, you can save a lot of money too.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that I wanted to mention is setting boundaries with work. And this is something we've talked about a lot. And I just find that making sort of like the deal with yourself of like, I'm not going to work past 5:30 unless something crazy happens, or I'm not going to work on weekends, or I'm not going to work overtime unless this. I'm always going to take my lunch, and I'm going to take my lunch away from my desk, whatever it is. And obviously it's different for every industry you're in. Like if you're a lawyer, you're expected to work late hours, and that's just part of it, and then you're like paid accordingly. So I am not paid accordingly to be working the lawyer hours, so I'm not going to do it. And this has just been such a big thing for me in making my life not just be about work, because I find it so easy. Obviously, your work, they love it when you're spending all of your free time working. You're always available. That's great for them. That's great bang for their buck, but it's not great for you. And so this has been something I've been working on, and I've just found has been really transformative. If it's like, as soon as it hits 5, I'm signing off, and I don't get my emails to my phone. I don't get my messages to my phone, and that's it. I am off. And same with weekends. Like I am off on the weekends, and it's been great.
Yeah. I think it's similar to your last habit around carving out time to rest. You know, you need time off work in order to show up at work and do a good job the next day. So I think taking that mindset can also help remind yourself why those boundaries are so important. I think the biggest thing that I've been working on is I've always felt like I have boundaries at work, but I don't follow through with them. And then I expect people to know them without communicating them. So that's my biggest thing I'm working on. And this is actually even in boundaries in my personal life with like friendships and other relationships, and even my time, where it's like, sure, if somebody asks me to do something, I get mad. Like outside of my boundaries, I get mad because I'm like, but I don't want to work past 5. Like it's my boundaries sign off at 5, right? But it's like, but you need to be the one to be like, no, you know, we'll meet tomorrow morning at 9 instead, and then actually follow through with that. So just wanted to add that to it. But I think setting boundaries is definitely a big game changer.
Yeah.
The last habit on the list for me is my newest habit, and something I've stacked into my night routine, and that is tracking my menstrual cycle. So I downloaded and have been using the app Flow, which I think is one of the like most popular apps to do this. It is something that I paid for as well. So there might be free options out there that work just as great, but I've been really liking Flow. And why I started doing this was, again, all of my points I feel just kind of like tie into having like self-awareness and then using that self-awareness to be the best version of yourself. But tracking my menstrual cycle was something where I was like, I know there's certain times of the month when I feel certain ways, and I know it's tied to my cycle, but I don't always know when it's coming. So for instance, the week before my period, I get very self-critical. I feel very ugly. I get very angry where people just say the smallest thing and it pisses me off. And I'm like, I know this is PMS, but it's not until I'm in the moment where I'm like, oh, my period must be coming. Or I get my period and I'm like, that's why I felt that way. Yeah. So tracking my cycle, it now gives me like, again, I'm someone that needs like closure. So if I'm feeling a certain type of way, I need to know why I'm feeling that way and then get my closure with it. So this app provides the closure before I even need it, essentially. And it's just like, it is definitely a game changer. Why I also really like the Flow app is it gives me push notifications, which some people would probably hate, but I really like it because I'll be like like actually just the past few days, I've been like, why is my back so sore? And I'll literally get a push notification from Flo being like, you're on this day of your cycle. You could be experiencing backaches today, or like you could be experiencing fatigue today. And it's always so accurate. So I don't know. I just find that really helpful. I feel like I can maybe, the more in tune I am with my body, I can like plan, going back to like time management, my planning strengths, all those things. Like I can plan my life around where I'm at in my cycle, how I'm feeling, when I'm the most energized, and really like do like cycle syncing. But for now, just tracking it, getting that awareness, learning about my body, how I feel, how I react to like, you know, certain foods and all of that, having it in the app is definitely the first step of all of that. So been loving it so far. And why I say I added it to my night routine is before bed every night, you kind of like fill in how you felt. So any like symptoms you have, if you're actually like on your period or not. So I fill that out every night before bed, just so I have like, have a habit of doing it, I guess.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Yeah. I've been a app cycle tracker for literally probably since high school. But now my app is like starting to fall apart because it's like whatever the biggest app was in like 2011. And I'm like, I want to move over, but it's like 10 years of my data that I'm like, do I have to move all that over? So maybe I'll look into Flow. We'll see. But I'm like, can you just like share the data? But I have a feeling they'll be like, no, because then you'll stop using our app. So I've been using Clue, which was good, but it's like very glitchy. And now they're starting to hide things behind a paywall too.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's Flow.
That's the journey I'm on.
Yeah, I do think Flow, a lot of it's behind a paywall as well. So be prepared for that. But I don't know. I think it's worth it. And the other thing I really like too, and it hasn't been extremely helpful, but it might be helpful in some cases down the line, is they have like bots that you can chat with. So they have so many like helpful articles and resources. So it's like, oh, you're feeling this way? Take this quiz to see if it's related to your like cycle or if it's something else going on in your life. So I really like that. I've done a few of the quizzes. Oftentimes, like I said, the outcome is exactly what I thought it would be. Like I've done it for acne, and it's like, this is hormonal or gut health related. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but can you give me more, you know? So it doesn't solve my problems. But again, for someone that needs answers and to analyze things, to get closure and move on, I do find their resources in the app are very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the best for planning. Like we're both planners. I love seeing like, these are all my vacations I have planned.
Yeah.
Oh, like I'm going to be PMSing on this one. I'm going to be on my period for this one. Same with like weddings. If you are planning a wedding, start tracking your cycle so that you can see if you're going to be on your period, because like there are things you can do so that you're not on your period, and that whole thing. So definitely.
Yeah. And even if you're like family planning, like going to the ultimate, like planning, like tells you when your best chances are of getting pregnant. So you can do with that information what you want. If you're trying not to get pregnant, you know, okay, great. If you're wanting to get pregnant, you know how to plan. And I think that's actually why these apps have been blowing up so much in the past few years, especially people like moving off birth control and trying to figure out, you know, other ways to, more natural ways, I guess, to manage hormones, things like that. I do think these cycle apps are huge in doing that. So
yeah, definitely. I think the last thing that I had written down is getting dressed every day. And this is something, again, that's like so simple. It kind of came from the pandemic, where it was so exciting not to have to get dressed every day, until it's like it's been a week and you realize you've been in pajamas the entire week. And it just like negatively affects my mental health so much. And it's also almost like it's the cause and the symptom. So sometimes if I'm like, uh-oh, something's going weird in my mental health because I've been wearing yoga pants every day. Or sometimes it's like, God, I feel so shitty. Oh, it's because I've been wearing yoga pants every day. So It's just been a big thing for me. I get dressed every single day. I work from home. I don't need to. Or I could just wear pajama bottoms and a nice top, but I get dressed like top to bottom every single day. And I've got my little slippers, so it even feels like I'm wearing shoes. I don't go as far as like doing my makeup every day, but I will usually have like my hair done. I'll have like my teeth brushed, deodorant on, dressed. And I actually almost every day wear perfume, even though I'm just working from home. But it's just something like that's my sign that I'm starting my day. And I just really, really enjoy it. And it's the same for weekends. Obviously, sometimes like if I'm feeling sick, if I'm on my period, if I'm like, no, today is the day where I'm going to chill, I'll still get dressed. I'll get out of my pajamas and put on like a lounge set or something. But it's just been great. And it also is so lovely if you've had a hard day of work to change into casual clothes.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're already in the casual clothes, you're just like, well, this day is ruined. So that is something else that's really positive from it. But again, so simple, but I love it.
Yeah, I love that too. I feel like I try very hard to get dressed every day, and I do. However, sometimes it's not until like I'm on my lunch break that I'm getting dressed.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, I need to do this as part of my morning routine. But I agree with you. And I feel like now I'm to a point where I know certain outfits make me feel a certain way. So for instance, you know, if I just have like a chill work day, no meetings, then I know I can put on my sweat set, not do my makeup, and just be like cozy at my desk, light a candle, drink my coffee. Meanwhile, if there's like a day full of meetings, I'm like, this is the day, like you're saying, I'll do my makeup, you know, put on like a nice shirt, jeans, like I'm fully in the zone. And then there's other days where I'm like, I need to be really productive, but I don't have any meetings. I'll maybe put on like a workout set or something, pull my hair back, like, I don't know. Now I feel like I match the outfit to the energy I want to feel that day. And that's also fun, but also like, I don't know, I guess just using, again, some self-awareness, I guess, to make you perform your best. But yeah, definitely. I love that. Well, there you go, guys. There's our health and wellness habits that have changed our life. We hope you guys maybe heard something that resonated with you or inspired you, maybe a new habit that you can try out, or maybe it's just encouragement to keep going. I think all of these things, you know, when we started out or if we fall off of them from time to time, getting back into it obviously can feel like a chore, but this is just your reminder that it's always worth it if it's going to make you feel better in the long run. So yeah, thanks so much for listening. We drop a new episode every single Tuesday. We would love it if you could leave us a review and rate our show. If you are somebody who listens in every week, that really helps us and boosts us up in the algorithm, all of that kind of thing. So please leave a review and rate. You can also follow us on social media. We're at Our Golden 20s. That's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest. We have Spotify playlists. We're all over the place. And we're at Our Golden 20s on all platforms. And the last place you can find us is on Patreon, which is the best way to show your support for the podcast. We drop bonus episodes pretty much every Friday. We put up blog posts every Wednesday. And then you get access to our weekly podcast episodes early. I think every Monday we aim for. Yeah. So yeah, check us out on Patreon. All of those things are linked in the show notes. But that is it for today. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye.